The millionaire sheikh dominated the grand terrace of his palace, the desert winds carrying whispers of his power across the emirate. His icy gaze scanned the horizon. Every command he uttered echoed in an empire built on wealth and control. Yet beneath this unyielding veneer of authority, a restless tempest stirred within him, a void unfilled by riches or conquest. Tonight, he was to meet a woman whose quiet strength promised to upend the balance he so meticulously maintained. The palace rose behind him like a fortress of gold and marble, vast tapestries woven with precious threads adorning endless halls. The scent of oud and jasmine floated through the air, mingling with the rare spices warming the lavish banquet halls. Here, luxury was law, and the sheikh was its unwavering sovereign, flawless and unapproachable. But far from the glittering splendor, the endless dunes whispered secrets, and with them came an unexpected collision of two worlds. She was the landowner's daughter, a figure as commanding as the plains she tended, yet wrapped in the simplicity of earth-toned gowns and eyes steady with silent resolve. Her name was Leyla. Raised amidst sprawling estates and endless laborer's sweat, Leyla bore scars, unseen, of secrets locked away behind a serene facade, and a fierce will forged by hardship and love for her land. She had never known a life measured in jewels or bound by golden chains. Their first encounter was charged with unspoken electricity, the sheikh's sharp presence filling the sun-dipped courtyard where Leyla leaned over the stone fountain, an unexpected visitor in this bastion of opulence. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of his world. "Your family's estates are vast, a treasure that could enrich even me." Her gaze held his steady, unblinking. "Some treasures come with shadows, and not all of them can be bought." Between them, a fragile tension wove itself like the desert's heat, attraction laced with caution, respect mingling with doubt. He was drawn not just to her beauty, but to the fierce light in her eyes, the defiance of a spirit not willing to yield. For her part, Leyla sensed beneath his polished exterior a loneliness that wealth could not soothe. Yet the barriers were many. His world of endless power, and her kingdom of roots and survival. As days melted into nights, under glittering chandeliers, whispered conversations revealed fragments of their true selves. She saw the man behind the billionaire sheikh's mask, a soul shackled by his unrelenting need for control, haunted by betrayals long past. He glimpsed in Leyla a strength born of pain, a secret she guarded fiercely, but which was beginning to unravel. The fragile veneer of diplomacy shattered one evening as Leyla stumbled upon a letter hidden in an ancient chest within the estate. Its cryptic contents, a revelation that threatened to uproot not only her family's legacy, but everything the sheikh cherished. Her heart pounded with dread as the magnitude of the secret sank in. A truth too devastating to share, yet too perilous to ignore. The desert moon bore silent witness as she clenched the paper, shadows dancing across her face. The knowledge was a blade poised to cut deep into their tentative bond. She wondered, could love survive the storm that this secret would unleash? And before the next secret of this world is unveiled, make sure you are part of our caravan of stories. If the heart of this billionaire sheikh has already caught your intrigue, leave a like. Tell us in the comments which city you follow this saga from and what twist you think is coming next. Your passion for these dramas inspires us to continue. Thank you for being with us. The letter trembled slightly in Leyla's hands as she retreated from the ancient chest, retreating into the shadowed corridors of the estate. Every word she had read replayed relentlessly in her mind, a betrayal entwined with her family's name, a secret that reached far beyond the cracked walls of her home. One that, if revealed, could shatter the fragile alliances holding the empire around the sheikh's throne together. Outside, the desert night cloaked the palace in a silent embrace. The distant call of an owl was swallowed by the vastness, as if the world itself held its breath. Leyla's heartbeat was a thunderstorm inside her chest, a tempest hardly subdued by the cool night air brushing against her skin. She wondered if the sheikh sensed the fissure widening between them, though he remained a fortress of granite and gold to the world. Beneath his polished command stood that restless shadow, the void that no throne or treasure could fill. And now, this secret threatened to tear through the delicate threads they had just begun to weave. The next evening, as the amber sun surrendered to twilight, Leyla found herself once again wandering the grand terrace where the sheikh had first shown his icy intensity. The marble floor beneath her feet was cool and smooth, the edges guarded by ornate balustrades that overlooked the desert's infinite canvas. In this suspended moment between day and night, everything seemed poised on a knife's edge. Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the soft echo of steps behind her. The sheikh appeared, his presence slicing through the evening air with an unnerving certainty. His dark eyes searched hers, restless, unreadable. "You linger on that terrace, as if she is your confessor," he said, his voice a low rumble that carried an odd mixture of challenge and curiosity. Leyla met his gaze without flinching. "Perhaps this night holds more weight than you imagine," she replied, her tone steady despite the turmoil inside. For a moment, the world beyond the terrace, the palatial halls, the desert winds, the countless eyes of the court, faded into insignificance. There was only the silent exchange of two souls locked in a dance of power and vulnerability. "You carry a burden," the sheikh said finally, stepping closer, the warmth radiating from his form, betraying the chill in his eyes. "One that may unravel everything we have just begun to build." She nodded, the letter's words hidden beneath her folds like a dangerous flame. "Some histories must remain buried," she whispered, voice laced with sorrow and defiance. "But truths once unearthed have a way of demanding reckoning." His gaze hardened, yet beneath its surface, a flicker of something fragile. Doubt, perhaps regret, shimmered. "Tell me," he said, "before secrets poison the wells we drink from." Leyla shook her head slowly. "To speak is to expose, and to expose is to risk losing everything, even you." The sheikh's jaw tightened, the weight of his empire suddenly feeling far less certain than the fragile emotion flickering between them. As silence wrapped around them once more, a sudden gust of wind swept across the terrace, carrying with it the scent of jasmine and oud, a reminder of all that bound them and all that threatened to tear their worlds apart. Later, alone in her chamber, Leyla unfolded the letter once more. The inked words revealed a truth that cut deeper than the harshest desert thorn. Her father, once trusted ally to the Sheikh's family, had safeguarded a secret that implicated the very foundations of the Emirate's power. A clandestine pact, forged in shadows, that could ignite a war of blood and betrayal. She traced her finger over the name signed at the bottom, her mind racing. Could she silently bear this burden? Could she protect the man who unknowingly walked into a snare woven long before their paths crossed? Before the weight of her thoughts crushed her, a soft knock at the door stole her attention. The room filled with the faint scent of sandalwood as the Sheikh entered, his expression unreadable but his presence commanding. "Secrets are weapons," he said quietly, closing the distance between them. "Held too tightly, they become chains. Let me share your burden, Leyla." For a brief heartbeat, vulnerability flickered in his eyes, an invitation, a plea. Leyla met that look with equal parts fear and hope. The walls of their worlds felt less imposing now, though the chasm of mistrust remained perilously wide. "I fear what the truth will do to us," she confessed. Voice barely audible. "And yet," he replied, "truth is the only path to freedom." His hand found hers, fingers brushing with hesitant warmth. But before the fragile peace could settle, the palace gates thundered open, breaking the stillness with the clamor of urgent footsteps and hurried voices. A messenger veiled in dust and urgency stumbled into the room, breathless and pale. "My Sheikh!" he gasped, bowing low. "There has been an attack on the caravans. The lands you sought to ally with. The fires threaten to consume all." The Sheikh's eyes darkened instantly, the fleeting softness vanishing like a mirage. Leyla squeezed his hand, feeling the tremor of an unspoken storm rising between power and fate. In that sharp moment, the weight of the letter, the threat to their fragile bond, and the looming external danger converged, a tempest brewing not only in the sands beyond, but within the gilded walls where love and loyalty battled for dominion. The Sheikh turned abruptly, the sound of his command unyielding as he summoned his guards. "Prepare the council," he ordered, voice sharp and decisive. "We must face this fire before it consumes all we hold dear." Leyla watched the echoes of his footsteps fade into the labyrinth of the palace. Her mind swirled with turmoil. Could this union survive shadows forged by secrets and the flames of war? As the night deepened, the desert wind whispered through the palace corridors, carrying a chilling promise. A storm was rising, and with it, destinies would be irrevocably changed. The messenger's words echoed like thunder against the marble walls. The flames threatening the caravans were not just a distant threat. They were a harbinger of chaos that could engulf everything. The Sheikh's heartbeat quickened, his usual composure cracking beneath the weight of the news. He turned sharply, eyes dark pools of storm. "Gather the council immediately." Every resource we have must be deployed to contain this fire. His voice brooked no opposition, resonating with the power of a man who ruled not just a palace, but a destiny. Leyla remained rooted where she stood, the letter still clutched tightly in her hand. The secret burning within it now felt infinitely heavier, tangled with this new crisis. The lives of countless innocents, her family's honor, the fragile bond growing between her and the sheikh, all hung precariously in the balance. She followed silently through the twisting corridors, the scent of sandalwood and oud trailing after the sheikh like a ghost. His presence was commanding, yet tinged with a raw edge of vulnerability that only the night seemed to glimpse. The opulence around them, golden chandeliers, brocaded tapestries shimmering with threads of silver and ruby, felt suffocating, a gilded cage that tightened around all their secrets. In the grand council hall, the air was thick with tension. Advisors in flowing robes exchanged hurried whispers, voices low but urgent. Maps sprawled across carved tables, displayed the desert routes, marked with tiny symbols denoting danger zones and caravan paths. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows, as if the fire threatening the empire had already begun to consume these walls from within. The sheikh paced slowly before them, his mind racing faster than his feet. "These caravans are the lifeline of our people," he declared, "and the survival of our alliances rests upon their safe passage. Whoever dares to threaten this desert's heart will answer to me." From the corner of the room, an aged councilman stepped forward, his eyes clouded, but voice steady. "My sheikh, intelligence reports suggest that this attack was no accident. There are shadowy forces acting against the Emirate's interests, those who fear your growing power and seek to fracture the fragile peace." A murmur rippled through the assembly. The threats were no longer whispers on the wind. They had taken form, tangible and deadly. Leyla's gaze fell to the letter, concealed beneath her sleeve. If her father's secret were part of this dark web, if the pact he'd hidden was the very key to this conspiracy, then the danger was far closer than anyone dared suspect. Later, as the council dispersed into hasty action, the sheikh sought out Leyla. He found her perched near the vast windows overlooking the desert, the horizon painted in molten gold as dawn bled into sky. Her eyes flickered with exhaustion, and a resolve steeled by unseen battles. "I feared the storm outside would drown us," he said quietly, stepping beside her. "But the storm inside," she answered, "is the one we must face before the others." He turned to her, the weight of 1,000 unspoken worries pressing down on his broad shoulders. "Your silence keeps me at bay," he whispered, voice rough. "Whatever secret you carry threatens to unravel everything between us. You must trust me." Leyla's breath hitched. The pain of carrying such a lethal knowledge alone was unbearable, yet the risk in sharing it was even greater. "Some secrets," she said slowly, "are chains disguised as protection." His hand closed over hers, the contact warm, grounding. "No matter how heavy the burden, we bear it together or we fall apart." For a moment, the palace, the empire, the politics, even the impending war faded until there was only this fragile bridge between two souls daring to trust. But the fragile peace shattered as a sharp cry echoed from the hall below, urgent and raw. Without hesitation, the Sheikh released Layla's hand and strode toward the sound. Layla's heart pounded as she followed, dread blooming like desert thorns in her chest. Down the corridor, a servant appeared, face pale, hands trembling. "My Sheikh, there is an intruder. Someone has breached the eastern gates." The guards were overpowered. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed into lethal slits. The fire, the attack on the caravans, the shadowy conspiracies, all converged into a terrifying crescendo. He marched to the window overlooking the eastern approach. Just beyond the towering walls, flickers of flame licked the night sky, and shapes moved with desperate urgency. Armored figures racing amidst the smoke and chaos. Layla's breath caught. The threat was no longer distant. It had arrived at their doorstep. The Sheikh's jaw clenched, muscles taut like drawn steel. "This was no random assault," he said, voice cold and resolute. "They know too much. Someone from within betrayed us." The words hung like a blade between them. Layla's eyes found his, searching for any sign of doubt or accusation. Instead, she glimpsed something fiercer, a wolf guarding its den, and a man finally stripped of pretense. Her own secret, the letter's revelation, felt suddenly both an unbearable weight and a desperate hope, if the past held. The key to this betrayal, then revealing it might mean salvation or complete destruction. The desert wind howled through the open window, carrying with it the scent of smoke, jasmine, and something unnameable, a promise of reckoning. Behind the shimmering veil of the night, the Sheikh and Layla stood side by side, two souls caught in the tempest of power, passion, and peril. As the palace alarms clamored and the first screams pierced the growing chaos, Layla's trembling hand reached once more for the letter, and in the cold, silver moonlight, she made a choice that would shatter everything they thought they knew about loyalty, love, and destiny. The letter slipped from her grasp, landing at the feet of a shadow lurking just beyond the threshold. The letter lay on the cold marble floor, its dark ink smeared slightly from Layla's trembling hands. The shadow that had lurked just beyond the threshold now stepped forward, revealing nothing but an obscured silhouette framed by the restless flicker of torches in the hall. Layla's heart hammered fiercely as she glanced up, eyes wide with silent alarm. The weight of the secret seemed to press down on her, the room closing in like a tightening noose. She could feel the pulse of the palace, the rigid order unraveling, the very walls shifting beneath the threat of betrayal. The Sheikh spun around at the sudden movement, eyes blazing with fury and suspicion. His hand flashed to the dagger concealed beneath his robe, steel gleaming faintly in the moonlight. "Who dares disturb the sacred halls of my home?" His voice was a low roar, a storm gathering in the desert night. The figure still did not reveal their face, but stepped closer, the edges of their cloak brushing the floor with a hiss. The whispers of the court seemed to fade into a tense silence as every gaze in the corridor turned toward the unfolding danger. Leyla's breath caught. The secret, this unknown visitor, everything was entwined in a web of silent threats and whispered alliances. "You should not have come here," Leyla said, her voice quivering but defiant. She moved instinctively between the intruder and the sheikh, a fragile shield born from desperation. The intruder paused, a voice smooth and chilling like desert night wind, finally breaking the silence. "Secrets have a way of finding light, no matter how deep they are buried. Your precious sheikh will learn the truth, whether by your kindness or by force." The sheikh's grip tightened, knuckles whitening on the hilt of his dagger. The cold fire in his eyes softened, replaced by a flicker of pain and doubt. Leyla's gaze flickered to the letter lying between them, realizing the true weight of what had just begun. "Speak," the sheikh commanded, voice rough with barely contained rage. "Reveal your allegiance, or leave, before my mercy runs out." The silhouette laughed, a sound like brittle glass cracking. "I am but a messenger, carrying tidings from those who watch from the shadows. Your father's pact is but the first stone to crumble. The empire you built stands on sand and blood." A cold shiver ran through Leyla, the shard of betrayal hidden. In her family's past was deeper, darker than she had imagined. The sheikh stared, his composure fracturing for a fraction of a heartbeat, before he masked it with supreme control. "You threaten me with shadows and whispers," he said slowly. "Yet it is the truth I fear most." The intruder's cloak suddenly dropped with a swirl, revealing a woman's face, sharp, proud, and cruelly beautiful, eyes burning with a determination that rivaled the desert sun. "Well met, Leyla," she said, voice dripping venom. "Or should I say," she paused, eyes narrowing, "the secret bearer of your family's doom." Leyla felt her pulse stall. Recognition flared. This was no mere stranger. This was an enemy woven tightly into the fabric of her life. The room seemed to shrink around them, the desert night pressing in. The sheikh's hand released the dagger, clenched instead into a fist that thudded against his armored breastplate. "You brought this darkness here," he accused, voice low but seething. "And you invited it by hiding behind lies," the woman spat back. "The truth will rise like a desert storm, unrelenting, and sweep away kings and queens alike." Leyla stepped forward, summoning every ounce of courage. "This ends tonight," she said, eyes blazing with fierce resolve. "No more secrets. No more shadows." The sheikh looked at her, this woman of earth and fire who had conquered the desert inside his soul, and a storm of conflicting emotions passed through him. Anger, fear, desire, but above all, an aching need to protect what little light remained. Behind them, the palace trembled with the distant echoes of rising chaos, alarms still ringing, guards shouting, the fires beyond the walls licking hungrily at the sands. The stranger's words lingered like poison in the cool night air. Leyla's gaze locked with the sheikh's, a silent pact forming between them. Whatever betrayals lay buried beneath the golden sands, whatever wars raged beyond their walls, they would stand united. But the shadow beyond the threshold was only the beginning. A sudden, sharp crack broke the night as the eastern gate exploded inward, a storm of dust, flame, and steel pouring through the breach. Armored riders surged forward, their war cries cutting through the desert night. The Sheikh knew, with brutal certainty, that all the secrets and lies now paled against the hell that had come to his doorstep. He drew his sword, its blade gleaming like liquid moonlight, and met Leyla's fierce eyes. No matter the cost, he vowed, voice ironclad and resolute, we will fight for our future, together. And as the invaders swarmed into the palace's heart, Leyla realized the price of truth was far greater than she had ever feared, and that the battle for love, loyalty, and power was only just beginning. The clash of steel and shadow poured into the heart of the palace, ripping through its gilded sanctuaries. Flames licked the marble floors, throwing jagged silhouettes that danced like vengeful spirits against the ancient walls. The sweet scent of jasmine was swallowed by smoke and ash, the opulence that once breathed life into these halls, now choking beneath the weight of invasion. The Sheikh moved with lethal precision. Every step a command, every strike a promise of defiance. His sword sang under the moonlight, carving arcs of molten silver through the dark, each movement honed by years of mastery and relentless will. Yet behind his fierce exterior, his mind raced, the secret Leyla carried prickling at his consciousness, like a whispered warning he could no longer ignore. Leyla's breath came in shallow bursts, the letter's revelation sharp in her mind as she parried alongside him. Her heart hammered against the cage of ribs, torn between the danger around them and the storm that brewed within. She could no longer pretend ignorance. The fragile bond stitched between them was threadbare and pulling at the seams. The intruders pressed forward, their cries echoing with the cruelty of mercenaries, hardened and ravenous. But even amidst the chaos, Leyla's gaze locked with the Sheikh's. In that silent exchange burned a fierce determination, a pact forged in fire far more potent than steel. The clash ceased suddenly as the palace gates buckled under the weight of an incoming surge. Reinforcements screamed into the courtyard, a tide of loyal guards rallying to stem the breach, their armor glinting like dawn's first light. The tide of battle shifted, and yet the greater war was far from over. Inside the grand hall, the wounded and the defiant gathered. The Sheikh's amber eyes, usually so guarded, now bared a vulnerability few had seen. He moved to Leyla's side, voice low but fierce. They came not just to burn, but to break us. But this palace, these people, they are stronger than any flame. Leyla's fingers brushed over the letter hidden beneath her gown, the inked words burning with the weight of truths yet to be spoken. Her voice trembled, but the resolve beneath it was steel. Your enemies are deeper than the desert sands. My father's shadow is cast longer than we feared. He took her hand, the flame of their connection igniting in the dark. Then we face both storm and secret, together. The night stretched thin into fracture and light. The palace shuddered with whispered betrayals and shouted courage. Leyla's steps faltered as a figure emerged from the swirling haze, not an attacker, but a face carved from nightmare and memory. She stepped forward, eyes cold as desert steel. You think this is the end? The pact is only the beginning. I hold the last piece, and with it the power to tear this empire apart. The Sheikh's gaze hardened, the fragile fortress of his heart bracing for a collapse neither he nor Leyla could escape. "Speak your truth," he commanded, voice ironclad. Her laugh was low, dangerous. "Truth? The truth is a blade steeped in blood and betrayal. You have danced around it like a man flirting with death. Now it's time to face the reckoning." Layla's breath caught, torn between the woman's venom and the promises whispered in the dark terrace hours before. The palace's golden halls, the sea of desert beyond, the fragile hope threading between the sheikh and her. Everything was poised on the edge of ruin. The stranger's eyes narrowed, piercing straight through Leyla. "Your family's secret is the empire's curse, and soon all shall see." The sheikh's jaw clenched, his world tilting irreversibly. He drew Leyla close, the warmth between them a fragile flame against the gathering storm. "Whatever the cost," he whispered fiercely, "we will face it, together." But as the words sealed their silent vow, the palace trembled once more. From the depths of the chaos came a chilling sound, the distinct and deliberate click of a hidden mechanism. A secret passage within the palace walls groaned, ancient stones sliding aside to reveal a figure cloaked in shadows, a traitor cloaked not in foreign armor, but in the guise of trust. The intruder stepped into the flickering torchlight, eyes gleaming with malice and secrets. "The game has changed, Sheikh. You are no longer the only player on this board, and the next move will be the last one you make." The Sheikh's hand went to his sword hilt, but Leyla grasped his arm, urgent and trembling. "Wait," she whispered, heart pounding like a desert drum. "This shadow knows more than we do. If we do not listen, it will be the ruin of us all." A heartbeat passed, suffused with silent tension. The weight of all their battles, past and yet to come. And then the figure spoke again, voice a sinister caress. "The pact was forged in fire, but the betrayal was born in blood. Leyla, you hold the key, but whose destiny will it unlock? Yours or your beloved Sheikh's?" The palace held its breath, and in that electrifying moment, Leyla realized the war was no longer just for power or love. It was for survival itself. The letters of her hidden truth, the fires raging beyond the walls, the creeping treachery, all converged into a single, devastating question. Who would pay the ultimate price when the desert storm descended? As the shadow's words faded into the oppressive silence, the flicker of torchlight caught on a glint beneath the traitor's cloak, a symbol, ancient and unmistakable, that promised the empire's foundation was about to crumble from within. The palace trembled under the assault, but within its walls, a quieter storm brewed, one born not of fire and steel, but of shattered trust and secrets laid bare. The letter, once a fragile ember of hidden truth, now lay crushed beneath the weight of suspicion and desperation. Layla's throat tightened as she stared at the cloak swirling before her. The face behind it, a mirror to the darkest recesses of her past. The woman stepped forward, her presence both a blade and a blaze. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, weighed heavily on the room, as if daring anyone to challenge the fatal destiny she carried in her words. You think you command loyalty, Sheikh, but you stand on a foundation cracked by deceit. The Sheikh's fists clenched, the lines of control and power threading his features, now strained by anger and an unfamiliar vulnerability. The fire raging beyond their walls was no match for the fire igniting within his heart. A tempest of betrayal and the bitter taste of impending ruin. Leyla, standing beside him, felt the fragile tether between them snap and stretch dangerously thin. Yet despite the chaos, she met the intruder's stare unflinching. "What you claim to hold as power," she said, voice steady but laced with sorrow, "is a curse cast upon us all. But it will not be the end." A cruel smile curled upon the woman's lips, a venom that spoke of years spent in shadows. "The pact you hide, Leyla, the one your father forged, it's a blade pointed at the very heart of this empire, and soon it will spill blood neither of you can contain." The Sheikh growled low, urgency sharpening his tone. "Enough riddles. Speak plainly. Who stands behind this treachery? Who would stab us in the back while claiming loyalty?" The woman's gaze flickered with triumph. "Names are currency, Sheikh. But understand this. None within your circle are as pure as they seem. Allies are pawns, friends are traitors, and your precious empire is a house built on shifting sands." Layla's chest ached. The secrets she desperately wanted to bury now clawed at the surface, threatening to consume everything she loved. The weight of her father's sins bore down like the desert sun, merciless and relentless. The Sheikh's amber eyes searched hers, a silent plea for truth locked beneath the veil of silence she carried. "If you carry a burden, Leyla, then share it, before the tides drown us all." She inhaled deeply, the scent of sandalwood and smoke thick in the air, battling her fear and pain. "There is a man," she whispered, voice trembling, "the shadow behind the firestorm, a betrayal that cuts deeper than the flames outside these walls. He has woven lies and pacts that threaten to unravel everything, including us." The woman laughed, a sound sharp enough to pierce the thickest armor. "You speak of shadows, but I am the dawn breaking through your illusions. The time for secrets is over. Prepare to watch your world burn. And ask yourself, who will stand when the ashes settle?" Suddenly, the distant roar of clashing steel and shouted commands grew louder, echoing through the marble halls like a declaration of war. The palace was no longer just a battlefield for soldiers. It was a crucible for hearts and allegiances. The Sheikh's hand sought Layla's, rough and steady. "Whatever the cost, we will fight. Not only for this empire, but for what we've begun to build." Layla's fingers trembled, but returned the grip, a fragile promise sealed in the storm raging outside and the storm raging within. From the shadows, the intruder's smirk deepened, her eyes glinting with merciless intent. "Beware, Sheikh. Your enemy wears no armor. Sometimes, the deadliest blade lies in the hand of the one you trust most." A sudden hush fell over the room, as the heavy wooden doors slammed open. Figures clad in dark cloaks poured in, their faces masked, eyes burning with ruthless purpose. The invaders were no longer distant threats. They stood before them, in the heart of their sanctuary, bringing with them a chaos that could devour kingdoms. The Sheikh stepped forward, sword drawn, a beacon of unyielding strength against the encroaching darkness. "To arms!" His voice rang out, commanding and fierce. "Protect the palace. Protect our people. Protect the truth, even if it must be built from the ashes." Leyla's gaze remained fixed on the woman who had shaken their world, whose words now echoed like a curse, bound by blood and betrayal. As the first arrows flew through shattered windows and the clash of steel rang ever closer, Leyla knew the night was far from over. The real battle, the one for love, loyalty, and power, was only beginning. But beneath the chaos, a deeper question gnawed at her soul. In a world where every secret was a weapon, every bond a battlefield, who could truly be trusted? And as the palace plunged into war's unforgiving embrace, an unseen figure slipped away into the desert night, clutching a hidden scroll, the final key to unraveling the empire's fate. The desert wind howled, carrying with it a promise and a warning that destiny was no longer a choice. It was a reckoning. The silhouette retreated into the shadows, just as the great doors were shattered open by the force of a new wave of attackers. Flames spilled through the breach, casting hellish light onto the marble floors, now stained with dust and fear. The palace's grand halls screamed with chaos, guards' shouts clashing against the roar of destruction. Leyla's breath hitched as the weight of the letter's secret bore down on her with merciless clarity. The empire's foundations trembled, not just beneath the assault of steel and fire, but under the crushing burden of betrayal seated deep within her bloodline. Beside her, the Sheikh's stature loomed vast, the very image of power honed sharp by years of dominion. Yet the tension coiled in his amber eyes spoke of a man whose control was slipping through calloused fingers, who felt the sting of vulnerability as acutely as the biting desert wind. He took no moment to hesitate before drawing his blade, a gleam of silver cutting through the smoke-swollen air, ready to meet the invaders with the wrath of a sovereign defending all he held sacred. Without looking away from the advancing shadows, his voice found Leyla's ear, low but urgent. "Whatever lies buried in your secret," he said, "will not break us, not while I breathe." She met his gaze, her voice steady, despite the tempest churning within. "The past has teeth sharper than these blades, but together we are no less than the desert's storm." As the first clash erupted, where steel met steel with a brutal clang, Leyla felt the flame of their fragile alliance kindle anew amidst the mayhem. Yet even as the palace became a battlefield, her thoughts tangled with dread. How long until trust shattered beneath the weight of unspoken truths? They moved through the turmoil, back to back, the rhythm of their moves intertwined with the pulse of survival. The scents of burning sandalwood and scorched silk tangled with the salt of sweat, the oppressive heat of battle, suffocating yet enlivening. A stray arrow whistled past, grazing the Sheikh's shoulder. He grunted, but did not falter. His eyes flickered briefly to Leyla, where resilience fought with fear in silent war. Then, amid the din, a figure broke through the ranks of attackers, a man cloaked in shadows, whose face held the cruel familiarity of treason. His mocking smile was a knife twisting deeper than any wound the flickering flames could create. "You fight for an empire crumbling from within," the traitor sneered. "Your precious alliances, your blood debts, they will drown you before the desert swallows us all." The Sheikh's voice rumbled through the smoke like distant thunder. "Speak your purpose, serpent. Reveal whether you crawl here as messenger or assassin." The man stepped forward, the torchlight glinting off a ring, etched with the same ancient symbol Leyla had seen hidden on the letter. "I bring a warning. The past you clutch will consume more than your pride, more than your love. The pact your father forged is a blight upon your house." Layla's heart froze. The very secret that had threatened to sever them now coursed through the room like poison. She stepped between the Sheikh and the traitor, her voice ringing firm despite the quake beneath her ribs. "Your threats hold no power here. The truth will come, but on our terms." Behind them, the battle surged, the palace's golden walls rattling against the pressing storm. The traitor's cold laughter echoed. "The storm will decide, and when it ends, only ashes remain." Suddenly, a sharp cry cut through the chaos. A guard struck down near the grand staircase, his blood pooling on the mosaic tiles. The Sheikh's gaze hardened, muscles taut like a coiled spring. He turned to Leyla, eyes blazing with a fierce plea. "If the secret you hide holds the key to this betrayal, you must trust me now." She swallowed the lump of dread lodged in her throat. The moments that followed were silence itself. Two souls aflame with hope and fear, tethered by a bond stretched thin but unbroken. "With truth comes freedom," she whispered. "And with freedom, a reckoning we cannot escape." A sudden explosion rocked the hall, torch sconces crashing to the floor, flames licking at their heels. The traitor vanished under the chaos, slipping through secret passages only known to those who wove webs in the shadows. The Sheikh gritted his teeth, sword ready. "We hunt the serpent in our midst." Leyla nodded, the letter burning in her mind's eye. Words that condemned and promised salvation all at once. As the palace raged around them, they pressed forward, the dance of war and whispered secrets entwined in every heartbeat. Between the scent of smoke and the shimmer of blood-stained silk, Leyla felt something stir, a desperate hope that even in this unfolding nightmare, their love might yet carve a path through ruin. But the night held one final betrayal. From the depths of the shattered gallery, a hidden voice whispered a name so familiar, it stole the breath from Layla's chest. It was a name tied not just to the secret letter, but to a shadow lurking closer than the enemy at the gates. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, the walls of certainty crumbling as the whisper echoed. "The truth lies with your mother." The air thickened, heavy with stunned silence. The desert storm outside was fierce, but inside, a greater tempest was about to break. The flames outside the shattered windows painted the palace walls in a ghastly dance of orange and shadow. Each flicker seemed to echo the turmoil raging, not only within the burning halls, but deep inside the hearts of those who stood amidst the chaos. Leyla's gaze hardened as she clutched the tattered remains of the letter hidden beneath her gown, a fragile relic of secrets too dangerous to ignore. Beside her, the sheikh moved like a tempest incarnate, his sword flashing like liquid moonlight, cutting down foes with ruthless precision. Yet, beneath that fierce exterior, his eyes betrayed a storm of doubt and despair. The weight of betrayal, both ancient and immediate, pressed upon him heavier than any blade. The stranger's words haunted their every breath. "Your empire is built on shifting sands," she had said, and now those sands were slipping through their fingers, threatening to bury everything they had fought to preserve. The palace trembled under the assault. Guards shouted commands, the clash of steel rang like thunder, and somewhere beneath the cacophony, whispered plots wove through the air like venomous serpents. Leyla's mind raced, unraveling the tangled web her father's secret had entangled them in, a web now ensnaring friend and foe alike. Suddenly, a sharp cry pierced the din, a guard's voice, strained and urgent. Leyla turned just as a figure emerged from the smoky haze. Cloaked in darkness, the traitor stepped forward, smirking with cruel satisfaction. But it was not just the audacity of invasion. It was the intimate knowing in his eyes that chilled her more than the desert night ever could. "You cannot hide behind wealth and power forever," the man sneered, voice dripping with scorn. "The pact your bloodline forged will be your undoing." The sheikh's hand tightened on his sword's hilt. His jaw clenched as he faced the man with a predator's gaze. "Speak plainly. Reveal your true intent, or leave before my mercy runs dry." A low, bitter laugh escaped the intruder. "Intent? I am the reckoning. The truth you fear is at your doorstep." Leyla stepped forward, defiant despite the quiver in her limbs. "This ends here. No more shadows to mask your treachery." For a fleeting moment, the desert seemed to still, the heat thick like suffocating silk around them. The sheikh's eyes locked with Leyla's, and in that silent exchange, a fragile alliance solidified, like steel forged anew. But fate was cruelly indifferent. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber, flames surging as torches toppled and caught the gilded drapes. Chaos erupted anew, screams clawing through smoke, footsteps pounding over shattered stone. Amidst the turmoil, Leyla felt a searing pain split through her side as a stray arrow found its mark. She stumbled, but the sheikh caught her swiftly, eyes wide with alarm and fierce protectiveness. "Hold on," he commanded, voice rough yet tender beneath the roar. Her breath hitched, fire burning not only in her wound, but in her spirit. The palace was a battlefield, but the war raging inside them was fiercer still. The letter's secret clawed at Leyla's heart. The knowledge that her family's past could either be their salvation or the final blade that ended their bond. He whispered against her temple, "We face this darkness together, Leyla. No secret, no shadow can divide us while I breathe." Her fingers grazed his, trembling but resolute in their fragile grasp. But trust is fragile, and secrets can shatter even the strongest steel. The Sheikh's gaze darkened, but softened with the weight of a truth he dared not voice aloud. Then we must be the storm that breaks and the calm that follows. Through the haze, the intruder's mocking voice carried again an unrelenting specter of doom. You dance on the edge of oblivion. The truth held in your blood is merely the beginning. Leyla's eyes locked onto his, fury and fear battling in a storm within her chest. Then let the dance begin, she replied, voice low, fierce. Suddenly, from the depths of the palace came a sound far more chilling than battle cries, the slow, deliberate creak of an ancient door sliding open within the walls themselves. A shadow detached itself from the gloom, stepping forth with the calculated grace of a serpent. The figure's face was hidden beneath a cowl, but the eyes gleamed with dangerous intelligence. The Sheikh's sword lifted, a warning carved into every sinew. Another traitor? The shadow's voice was silk and steel combined. No, bearer of truth long denied. Leyla, your mother's name echoes through the halls of deceit. The key you seek lies buried in her past. Leyla's breath caught the mention of her mother, a figure wrapped in mystery and whispered rumors, unleashed a torrent of buried memories and unanswered questions. How? She demanded, voice trembling with a mixture of hope and dread. The shadow inclined their head, voice a whisper carried on the desert wind. The empire's salvation, or its ruination, rests on a choice only you can make, to unveil the buried past or let it consume you all. The Sheikh's amber eyes bore into Leyla's, unyielding and desperate. Tell me, or we lose everything. In that fragmented moment, a heavy silence fell, before the crackling fury of the firestorm beyond could claim the night. Once more, Leyla's fingers tightened around the letter's edge, its secrets burning through her skin like the desert sun. And as the palace's foundation seemed to groan beneath unseen pressures, a single word echoed like a death knell from the shadow's lips: betrayal. The palace, scarred by flames and shattered stones, lay silent under the first light of dawn. The once vibrant tapestries were faded and torn, but through the charred corridors and broken arches, a new hope stirred like the gentle desert breeze that carried the scent of jasmine and fresh earth. The millionaire sheikh stood tall amid the remnants of his empire, his amber eyes now softened with a profound resilience that only true hardship could forge. Beside him, Leyla's hand found his, their fingers entwined as naturally as the roots of the land she so fiercely loved. The letter, once a harbinger of secrets and despair, rested folded and silent in his palm, its weight lifted not by denial, but by the courage to face the truth together. They had stood against the storm, the betrayal seated deep within their bloodlines, the flames that threatened to devour all they held dear. The traitors had been revealed, their web unraveled by resolve and honesty. The shadow that had loomed over the empire was pierced by the light of their unity. In a meeting that followed, the council gathered with renewed trust. The alliances, once fragile, had been reforged, not with whispered lies, but with promises spoken openly. Layla's father's secret pact, once a curse, was now laid bare, with the Sheikh's authority, tempered by wisdom and compassion. The woman who had emerged as their enemy, the architect of shadows, was held to justice. But more importantly, a path forward was forged through understanding and mercy, a rare act that stunned even the hardest hearts of the court. The desert outside no longer whispered threats, but sang songs of renewal. Its endless dunes caught the sunrise, burning gold and rose, as if celebrating the rebirth of the emirate itself. Within the palace gardens, now tenderly nurtured back to life, Leyla walked with the sheikh. The promise of peace was painted in the delicate bloom of roses and jasmine, the soft rustle of leaves replacing the roar of battle. Their steps were slow, deliberate, echoing the harmony that had settled between them. An unspoken vow held steady by shared trials. His eyes, once steely and unyielding, now brimmed with warmth as he looked upon her. "You were the light in the darkest night," he said, voice low but filled with awe. "Without you, this victory would be hollow." Leyla smiled, a smile carved by hardship, but glowing with hope. "And you taught me that even the coldest heart can find fire, if it's willing to burn away the past." Together, they had dismantled the walls of suspicion and fear. Their love, once tested by secrets and storms, now stood a fortress, not built of gold and marble, but of trust, sacrifice, and an unbreakable bond. In the days that followed, the palace transformed, both in form and spirit. The emirate's people, once quietly fearful, stepped forward with renewed faith in their leaders. The sheikh's rule was marked not by iron will alone, but by justice that healed and a heart open to change. Layla's family lands were restored, honored with fairness and respect, weaving their heritage into the fabric of the realm. The burdens of old betrayals were acknowledged and released, not erased, but embraced as lessons guiding the future. One evening, beneath the sapphire sweep of the desert sky, the sheikh and Leyla stood on the very terrace where their tale had begun. The stars blinked down softly, witnesses to their journey, of passion born from pain, of secrets faced and fears conquered. He took her hand in his touch warm and steady. "This empire, our home, will be ours, not because of wealth or legacy whispered in shadow, but because we chose each other." Layla's eyes shone with tears that spoke of battles fought, of trust rebuilt. "Together," she breathed. The wind carried the distant call of desert birds, a sound both wild and free, a symphony of promise and peace. The future stretched before them like the endless dunes, full of unknowns, yes, but no longer alone. They had forged a love that could endure any storm, a power greater than kingdoms. As the moon traced its silver path across the sky, they embraced, two souls bound not by the chains of secrecy or the weight of crowns, but by the fierce and tender flame of redemption and hope. Their story closed not with the fall of an empire, but with the rise of a new dawn, bright, untamed, and eternal.